Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. Live from Austin, Texas, broadcasting worldwide, it's Alex Jones.
Now, beginning, just to let you know some of what's coming up, feds may seize Liberty dollars. And they have announced that to even have a Liberty dollar, silver or gold or copper, which is one of thousands of companies that have existed over the last few decades producing their own private silver and gold coins. That if you have these coins, and they're beta testing right now gold confiscation, they're seeing if the public is dumb enough to believe carbon dioxide is poisonous, or that TSA should stick their hands down your pants, or that lemonade stands are illegal, or that gardening in your own yard is illegal. They're seeing if the public is stupid enough to think that this is counterfeiting, to issue your own silver and gold coins, even though that's not even accepted at most stores. This company operated, of course, for 14 years before being raided. And Bernard von Nothaus is out in Hawaii right now. That's why we haven't called him yet, because it's so early, but we may get him to pop in on the broadcast. He's still awaiting sentencing. He was found guilty, of course, a few months ago. And if you read the FBI own website with a U.S. attorney, attempts to undermine the legitimate currency of this country are simply a unique form of domestic terrorism, said U.S. Attorney Tompkins. All these forms of anti-government activities do not involve violence. They are every bit as insidious and represent a clear and present danger to the economic stability of this country, she added. We are determined to meet these threats through infiltration, disruption, and dismantling of organizations which seek to challenge the legitimacy of our democratic form of government. And they say the same thing in manuals, of course, they give law enforcement about Ron Paul. Our legitimate form of government was taken over by the private Federal Reserve. They've now bankrupted us by design. They're offering a new bank of the world as the solution. You got to love the infiltration part. It's not illegal to produce your own raw, real milk, but they, quote, infiltrate groups that are public, and it's like saying we infiltrated a Sunday school meeting. So they go to the jury and say, we infiltrated a Sunday school meeting. See, we infiltrated. They're criminals. We SWAT teamed them. And most juries say, hey, that's it. Garden in the yard. You infiltrated, send them to jail. Lemonade stand, you infiltrated, send them to jail. They're selling gold and silver for 14 years publicly. You infiltrated, send them to jail. It's like the infiltrating, like we're infiltrating. We're infiltrating people that are eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, so it must be illegal. I mean, it's all like dress up or theater. Why, we spent $1 million over a year infiltrating an Amish group selling milk to their neighbors. Our undercover agents were able to purchase it dozens of times and made friends with them. Made friends with people publicly selling milk? See, this is what tyranny's all about. Just like in the cases where my listeners in Tennessee, Arkansas, and Kentucky, in the newspaper, they report with a straight face, Kelly Rushing arrested for handing out videos. They had Ron Paul and Alex Jones on them. Police found it, anti-law enforcement. He's facing 6 years in jail. And then it went to trial, and the jury found him not guilty. But they tried to put him in jail for something that wasn't illegal. We'll be right back to break all this down. It's important. Stay with us.
You don't need me to tell you that humanity is in a deep crisis. Everyone can feel it. We know a tectonic struggle is now taking place between the forces of freedom and those who love darkness, bondage, and enslavement. Yes, my friends, evil is rising. But take heart. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Recently, New World Order operative Hillary Clinton admitted they're losing the info war.
We are in an information war, and we are losing that war.
The globalists are scared. They've overreached. The future of the info war is in your hands. Join PrisonPlanet.tv. Download the thousands of special video reports, ebooks, and more, and get them out to everyone you know. Continue to spread the word about the broadcast on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and every other globalist propaganda platform. We are going to use their system against them. The info war now goes into high gear.
We're going to be breaking down news from around the world. Israel sends 2 warships to the Egyptian border. Israelis stock up on stun grenades to welcome Palestinian state uprising. Tripoli tries a new life, no Gaddafi, no food, no water. Iran discreetly aided Libyan rebels. That's French news agency. I thought Iran were the bad guys. I thought Al-Qaeda were the bad guys, but also, final battle imminent. Libya rebel spokesman is saying rebels give Gaddafi forces 4 days to surrender or face military action. Blair's sister-in-law, Tony Blair's sister-in-law, incites Muslims to liberate Jerusalem. Boy, the globalists are really trying to start World War III right now. House GOP targets the UN over Palestinians. That's just some of the news. On that front, we're going to be breaking down. Also, the White House issues guidelines on September 11th observances. Their talking points have been made public on keep it focused on Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is still a threat, and we need to keep the wars going. And, of course, none of the first responders are allowed at the events, though. Because, here's another article today out of Raw Story, Army Ranger's widow booted from Rumsfeld's book signing. She confronted him and said that he had lied about 9/11. Ashley Joppa Hagman said that her husband, Sergeant Hagman, had joined the military because he believed the lies Rumsfeld had told after the 9/11 attacks. She was manhandled out of the building, KCPO-TV reported. So that's some of the news on the 9/11 front. Also, 6 arrested in latest San Francisco BART protest. There's more protest against the fact that there was going to be another peaceful protest a few weeks ago. So the government just turned off the cell phones in a large part of the city preemptively. I thought Hosni Mubarak was bad for doing that once there was rioting and burning. But the police say that they tolerated the protest. They tolerated the First Amendment. Isn't that nice? Meaning it's up to them until there were statements made that were, quote, anti-police. At least 6 protesters were arrested Monday night during the 3rd week of protest against San Francisco Bay Area Transit BART. The demonstrators were upset with BART's decision to cut off cell phone service at its stations to thwart a planned protest and of the killing of a homeless man by a BART officer. 2 men were detained by police after passing through the gates and chanting an anti-police slogan. And it goes on, BART officials, our leaders, had previously said they would only tolerate protest outside the gates. Now, 4 were arrested by the San Francisco police for allegedly impeding traffic and refusing police orders to move. And it just goes on from there. We have a very important stack here dealing with the economy that I'll be getting into more detail on after we take some of your calls. Negative view of federal government hits new all-time high in Gallup poll. Lowest in history. They do not believe, the general public does not believe the government serves them. Kucinich says Obama's job czar, expert at creating foreign jobs. I'm glad somebody's talking about this other than Ron Paul. Dennis Kucinich points out that most of the bailout money and most of the stimulus money ends up going to build General Electric factories in China, General Motors factories in China, Brazil, Eastern Europe. Just tens upon tens of billions of dollars of your tax money goes to actually pick up the factories and move them. I mean, that's what I mean. It's so over the top now. No first responders at 9/11 memorial on 9/11. All over the country, thousands of articles about lemonade stands, and Forbes asked, what's the nationwide crackdown on lemonade stands? And garage sales and gardens, because the government is a Sovietized Gestapo that's shutting everything down. Animal ID, premises ID, food safety, all pointed at local independent people. All these new agencies, the Rural Council run by the Department of Defense and Homeland Security, openly saying they're going to have federal spies in every rural area. They're going to join up with Boss Hogg and basically oppress the local populations. I mean, this thing is a full-on globalist takeover. The banks run the Pentagon, run Homeland Security, and they are setting up a giant police state grid. Local threat fusion centers, merging the military and police. It is right out of every other third world despotism we've seen, but with a high-tech integration. And what did I hear this morning driving in on the local station? Groveling to the system, saying, well, yeah, taxes are being raised on water and power and property taxes, even though the housing prices are plunging. It doesn't matter. You're going to pay more on the property tax, which we didn't have in this country until 60 years ago on average. The Soviets had it. Feudal Europe had a property tax. Even if you supposedly owned your property, you had to pay the state a percentage, so you don't really own it. It's a rent. And I heard them saying, it's terrible that people aren't paying all their little taxes and things. Well, they can't. I mean, you've got 11% of Texans are on a arrest warrant list. And I heard the host and them celebrating that they're going to take people's houses and cars and farms. And then I heard a caller call in, and I was just listening about 10 minutes and said, listen, we're in a depression. A lot of people can't pay. And they're like, oh, shut up, you scofflaw. You're going to get it. And there was giggling and smirking. And then they went to another guy and was like, that's right, I work for the government, and we're going to get your property. And it sounded like a joke, but he was serious. And you scofflaws are going to get it. I mean, it is just incredible. You've got the group of people that are going to submit and bootlick and crony up to every form of oppression. And for a while, they're still going to get their paychecks. And it is a collision course, like two speed trains on the same track going 100 miles an hour each with a 200-mile collision coming. And they're going to call that terrorism. In fact, I see it in the news now every day. Oh, my gosh, this guy filed suit against the government for not having jurisdiction. He's a paper terrorist. Let's arrest him. Now, if you try to use the courts, they're calling it terrorism, paper terrorism. And you've got people that are waking up on one end of the spectrum. You've got those that are getting deeper into their denial and saying, nope, there's not a tyranny. I choose to join with the system. And then you've got those in the middle who have no idea what's going on. I mean, I listen to men talk. I listen to women. And they sound like addled, low-grade morons. They're just gibbering, mindless idiots that can tell you every facet of sitcoms and dramas and sports, and who think it's weird to be civically involved or get freaked out if you're informed. Just like the movie Idiocracy. They think you're showing off when you try to warn them. They think it's weird. They say, that's strange. You're crazy. You know about the three branches of government. Basic facts are seen as evil. That's all coming up today. But I would have to say, and the polls show it, the vast majority are awake. I'd say 65, 70%. These polls are showing more like 80. But 50, 60, 70% are somewhat awake. But they have no idea just how bad it is. I have trouble, even though I have all the facts, all the documentation, to believe the information that our conclusions have shown to be accurate. It is hard to come to grips with the fact that you're under a Soviet tyranny, or you're under a Nazi tyranny, or you're under a Chi-Com tyranny, or a Pol Potian tyranny, or a Hugo Chavez type thing. But we're here, it's on, and the globalists have decided to fully commit to the collapse while telling everybody everything's fine and grandstanding as our saviors. And you've got a lot of people brought up from a very young age to be simple-minded and to be like little children and think that as long as they're positive about the corruption and kind of go along with it and buy into the denial and the cover stories that are offered for all the different forms of tyranny, that somehow they're on a winning team.